Hello and welcome to the fourth installation of my second chapter of devblogs. Within this episode I'll be making another particle cloud sort of effect. This will be very reminiscent of the first particle cloud that I sort of went for in the first set of devblogs. And again, for this I'll be using TouchDesigner, so let's get started. So to kick things off, again I bring the audio into my workspace, and for this effect I'll be using the audio analysis node rather than the spectrum. And what this does is it breaks up the audio into differing categories. So it breaks it up into the kick, the snare, the low, mids and highs, and with each of these individual values I can go about and I can use these values and I can tie them to different parts of the visualizer later down the line. So for the basis of this effect, I'll be using the Particles GPU node. This will be the first time I use this node for any of my effects in TouchDesigner. And the great thing about using this node is that since it spawns the particles, I don't have to worry about creating any materials, so this sort of saves me a step. But currently I'm just going about and changing the values until I get a more sort of ethereal look from the cloud rather than it being just one big whole piece. So once I was happy and once I had a general look for the effect down, I focused my attention on the colouring for the visualizer. To do this I used a pair of ramp tools, and ramps are great because when applying colour through them, the colour is different throughout the whole image, so from left to right it changes from one colour to another, and this can work great when applying it to visualizers, especially ones that have a lot of movement around the screen. So now on this next step, I'm setting up a network of nodes that run from the audio analyzer, and I use a set of select nodes to select the kick and the snare, and then I run them through some math nodes to amplify them, as well as some speed nodes to make them faster. And then these values I can then use as the basis for the movement of my effects. So here I'm just tying it to different pieces of the effect and seeing which works best. With the last step complete, I went about editing the parameters for how the particles sit within the scene. So to do this, I went about making the box larger, and then with this, I changed the actual properties of the particles so that anytime they touched the box, they'd actually stick to it for a bit. So due to it being a particle effect and having thousands of particles, as more particles hit the box, it starts to create a box around it, which I thought made a very nice visual effect. So yeah. Once I was generally happy with the prior parameters, I went on to the first step of the post-productive stage. So with this, I went about setting up a blur for the image. So to do this, I used a ramp tool, and then I fed that ramp tool into a Luma blur tool. And so what this basically does, any of the white within the ramp that you see in the middle of the screen, any of the white will blur the image. So once I had that down, I ended up using and playing around with some mirrors, but I don't think I liked how they looked. So for the final tweaks for this effect, I returned back to the color, and I went about changing it so that each particle was based on its velocity for the color, and as a result it makes like a multicolored sort of hue to all the particles. And with that, I centered the camera, and I didn't choose to use the bloom effect with this visualizer, because I thought it would be overpowering with this multicolor profile. But with all these pieces in place, I went about completing the first render. So much like the last effect, I'm generally on the fence about this one. Visually, again, it's very aesthetically pleasing. However, as a visualizer, I think it does need some more tweaking. Prior to the actual drop of the song, I think it starts to look great, but when the actual drop comes in, the effect seems to weaken. So some tweaks will have to be made. But currently, this is my only render that I have of this effect. So I'll see you again in the next episode, and I thank you very much for watching.